Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time and place you're listening to the second ever episode of the So Not PC podcast with Rob Adamus. I happen to be looking out the window watching the beautiful sun out there as it's about to set. Yeah, it's nice. I'm your host, Rob Adamus, in case that wasn't already completely obvious. And I thank you from my heart for taking time out of your day with me. First show was a basic introduction to the types of topics and content we'll be providing on a weekly basis. Information that we hope will be informative, entertaining, eye-pop, sometimes controversial, sometimes funny, but more than anything else, an education to you, the listeners and viewers, to have you think for yourselves. Research the information we'll be providing, because as much as what we've researched and put out to the public is, in our findings, 100% accurate and true, we're not here to be like MSM, fake news. What is MSM? Media outlets in TV, newspaper, radio, magazines, etc., which do nothing but lie. Here are the worst by viewer studies. CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, and in Canada, by far, CBC, better known in Canada as the Communist Broadcasting Corporation. Yes, there's also Maclean's Magazine. Down in the States, Washington Post, interestingly owned by Mr. Jeff Bezos from Amazon, who did a nice big smear campaign on President Trump before he became president. How nice is that? $600 million from the CIA to smear him. Wow. Okay. Oh, this is why you hear nothing but negative stories about Mr. Trump. And facts show, as of today, at least 92% of the stories about him are negative and complete lies. Wow, that's not good. Interesting how the worst president in U.S. history, Mr. Barack Hussein Obama, not his real name, by the way, a Muslim and hater of the U.S., was given overwhelming positive news from these media outlets during the 8 years he tore apart the U.S. And if anyone wants to refute what I've just stated, please go right ahead. Okay, you'll still be wrong in your rant. And here's what I double back to what I said earlier. Do your own research. That's a mantra you're going to hear all the time about this show. Here's a rub. You must research using alternative news to find facts and truth, not mainstream media. And please stay away from search engines like Google, YouTube, Bing. These are Google owned, by the way, and what they do is they scrub negative stories about Obama and the Clintons. Up in Canada, Mr. Justin, I Love Islam Trudeau, George Soros, and there's a name that you're going to hear a lot in my shows. We're going to expose this guy. Google happens to be an extremist left-wing organization who's been exposed for their algorithm bias and hate for conservatives, Christians, Jews, and anyone who has what we call a centered view opinion about subjects. As a matter of fact, today, Google is going back into China. Now, when I say going back, they never really left. And they've already stated outright that they're going to censor with their algorithm those views. So, that's not good either. And as much as I could go on for weeks about Google and their corrupt organization, this leads me into my topic du jour, the Globalist Agenda. What is it? Who is it? And here's a quote from some globalists. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. The First Global Revolution. That was a report by the Council of the Club of Rome by Alexander King and Bertrand Schneider in 1991. It's been going on a long time. Now I want to ask you folks some questions. Think about this. Have you ever thought something is wrong? Have you ever thought you were being lied to by your politicians, government, teachers? If you answer no to either of these questions, my counseling door is always open, okay? Have you ever thought you were being manipulated by TV? Again, counseling doors open. Have you ever wondered how the world really works? You ever caught the media in a lie? That's a daily thing, by the way. You want to know how money really works? Have you ever wondered how the elite of this world, who they are, what they're doing, what they believe in. Well, the Globalist Agenda represents a plan to bring all citizens of our planet, current estimates about 7.6 billion, under the control of a single global state, what we call a one world government. There's a small but powerful group of individuals who are the architects and instigators behind the formation and implementation of this New World Order, NWO. You may have heard that one. Using their influence through international organizations such as the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, Royal Institute of International Affairs, Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group. This one I'm sure you've heard, the United Nations. Yeah, they're only united in one thing, and that's to take down the world population. NATO and hundreds of other non-governmental organizations. The objective of these internationalists is nothing less than the subjugation of everyone on the planet as servants to a one-world government. Servants mean slaves. A government run by the same small group of elites who rule the masses for a very long time under various guises. Now, these elites are the descendants of those who ruled for at least the past 2 centuries, talking kings and queens, bankers, robber barons, priests, and assorted subservient oligarchs and media representatives. Now, their desire is for a return to a one-world feudal state should come as no surprise to anyone who's read a little bit of history. It's their nature, after all. In the modern manifestation, these people can be seen as kings and queens, international bankers, the military-industrial complex, and their servants. The corporate CEOs, scientists, professors, lawyers, heads of those NGOs, the non-governmental organizations, politicians, and media leaders, all of whom the elite control partially or completely. Sad, but true. You can buy or brainwash most national bankers, soldiers, bureaucrats, CEOs, scientists, NGOs. Say what you want them to say. So, if you, the public, allow their plans to proceed, you'll see how under the guise of keeping us all, quote, safe, with anti-terrorist laws, taking away your freedom of speech, which we're seeing every single day. Certainly the UK is at that point. We're getting that in Canada. They've been trying that in the US. Your right to bear arms, which happens to be the Second Amendment down in the US, to protect yourself and your family from tyranny. Okay, for those who don't understand what tyranny is, it means a government where one ruler is vested with absolute power. And there's an old saying, and it's profound because it's true. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Okay? Think on that. Criminals of all kinds, like illegal immigrants, for example. Islamists, MS-13, a very violent South American group, highly penetrated down in the U.S. Globalists will have citizens gradually and incrementally lose their civil liberties, preventing any dissent against either the government or the ruling elite who give the government their orders. The purpose of exposing this globalist agenda is to first provide a concise base of knowledge, explaining the historical origins and mechanisms of the one world government plan, and second, to provide avenues of resistance and methodologies for survival within the chaos purposely imposed within this plot to save all of humanity. Now we're going to achieve a new world order without paying for it in blood, as well as in words and money. That comes from Arthur Schlesinger Jr. in the Foreign Affairs, August 1995. Another quote, "We shall have world government whether or not you like it, by conquest or consent." Statement by Council on Foreign Relations member Mr. James Warburg, one of the ruling families in the world, which, again, you need to look into their history. That was a little comment that he had back in 1950. So again, this has been going on a long time. A gentleman who passed away last year at the age of 101. I'm sure you've heard his name and his family's name before, David Rockefeller. This is from a speech given at the Trilateral Commission in 91. "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion." Hear that word? Discretion. For almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. But the world is more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national auto-determination practiced in past centuries. I'm going to say right here, I don't agree with them. And I would hope that you don't either. So to paraphrase the above quote from Mr. Rockefeller, he's thanking various print media propaganda outlets for keeping certain facts, quote, under their hat. Facts such as how the Trilateral Commission and other NGOs have worked so diligently to destroy the USA's power and prestige and replace it with a global government run by a banking cabal and an intellectual elite. Now, all you need to do, there's plenty of these facts out there on the internet, okay? I'm just quoting a lot of the stuff that our research has found, so it's out there. It's not hidden. And it's a fact. The Rockefellers, the Bilderbergs, another name you're probably familiar with, the Rothschild family, and NGOs like the Club of Rome, along with individuals such as, here comes that name again, George Soros. The main financier with all of his 200 plus hate anarchist organizations, including funding Mr. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Yeah, you know, Mr. Babble, can't speak a sentence without babbling through his ass. Yeah, his main financier. He's going to be one of my main targets to expose. And Maurice Strong are involved in a globalist NWO takeover. Now, as I started researching this in depth about a year and a half ago, I began to uncover a lot of information that is what we call eyes wide shut, which means this information has been in front of people's eyes and ears for decades. It hasn't been hidden. The fact it's been, quote, hidden in this matter has been done strategically. And when there has been any rational person calling out the globalists on this agenda, they've been labeled, yes, you may have heard this one a few times, conspiracy theorists. Typical left-wing tactics. Yet interesting fact about conspiracies is that 75%, according to certain publications, of all conspiracy theories have proven to be true. I'd suggest the number is actually over 90%, as more evidence is exposed with the use of sophisticated technology, people coming forward eventually who were part of what they call the initial conspiracies. Now, given the vast amount of information attached to the globalist agenda, the large amount of families and individuals part of this cabal, I realize one episode of coverage will not be near enough to provide you the information you need to hear. So I'm going to make this topic a multiple episode requirement. We'll go back decades to the origination of the globalist agenda, to present day goings on, which will, I believe, make you look at life in an entirely new way. And this will be a good thing. So until next week, thank you everyone for tuning in to the So Not PC podcast with Rob Adamas. I'm humbled. I'm grateful you took time with me today, and hope you become an avid follower and tune in to next week's show, where we'll continue exposing the long list of perpetrators and their actions of what I call pure evil against humanity. Please follow the show on Instagram at So Not PC Podcast, as I'll post periodic updates and associated things there, and Facebook as well. Until then, be well in mind, body and spirit, be learned, be inquisitive, question things, think, and may God bless you in all things.